The one thing I wanted to tell you about the man who killed his girlfriend and his baby, his father used to hit his head with a ball peen hammer. His cortex, yes. And I've said to this man, I said, let's get your brain. Let's take a look at your brain. Let us show the world what brain injury does. And we're creating brain injuries with the police. The police are creating brain injuries all the time. Gang violence is creating brain injuries, and correctional officers are creating brain injuries. So everybody right now is doing the worst thing you can do to create a safe society, because you're not safe when your brain is injured. That's the thing.
Yeah. I totally understand. I mean, I've just been watching the documentary on the Washington snipers, and it's interesting because they look at their background and obviously what made them do the terrible things. But I suppose the other side of it is the victims and the poor people that have had to suffer. But I suppose you could take that full circle, because if we can work out, well, you can't eradicate bad parenting, can you? You can't eradicate.
That's the goal. People. That's the goal. I want to end child abuse in my lifetime. I want everyone to know that hitting your child, I don't care if it's because they were naughty. I don't care. It injures their brain. It injures their brain. And that's what we need. That's the information people need to know. If I knew I was injuring my child's brain when I was a younger mother, I was 43 when I gave birth.
Yeah, wow.
But if I knew that my behavior was injuring my child's brain, I would have gotten help much sooner. And I don't want that to happen. I want everybody to know this. I want every single parent in the world, every kid who's having sex with somebody and about to have a baby, I want them to know that your behavior is going to help or hurt your child's brain. And Well,
the thing is that's parenting, isn't it? Parenting, it all comes down to parenting. So, and it's such a big question, do they know how to parent properly? Have they got the equipment or the money or the love or know how to express things? So a lot of it is education, because some of these, they haven't got money. So the only thing you could give them really is education. But then the other side of it is when you've got nothing, surviving is hard enough, isn't it?
I agree. But I'm an educated woman. I went to Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York. I didn't know how to parent at 43 years old. I didn't know the necessary. I knew I had to talk to my kid, so he's got an incredible vocabulary. But I didn't know that what I was doing was changing his brain, and I think that's the key here. It doesn't matter. It spans across the whole spectrum from homeless to billionaires. They're still injuring your children's brains. And that's what's so important here. But back to the victims, I really want to talk about this because, okay, first off, all these kids that we're talking about in prison were victims, right? Full stop, 100%, no question. No one's taking care of those victims. If we don't take care of our victims, we're going to create more victims. But then to talk about the victims, they need closure, and our court system and our justice system doesn't bring closure. They need, the Native Americans, they have a restorative justice circle is what they do. A harm's committed, get those people in the circle. And in that circle, everyone is equal. Everyone has a voice and everyone is important. And it's not that it's you raise the level of because the person who committed the crime, first of all, is mortified that he did it, even if he's a sociopath. There's something he knows that's wrong. But you bring him into that circle and say, or her into that circle and say, you did something very bad. And then you ask the victim, what do you need to repair this? What needs to happen? What does this person have to do to bring back your sense of safety, to bring back your son, to bring back whatever you lost in that event? And that's being back in your cortex. That's work during your cortex. The criminal justice system is a fight or flight system. It wants to just punish and throw them away and lock the key away. But the problem is, guess what? 95% of the people in prison are coming home. And are they coming home worse than they were? Yes, they're coming home worse. They're coming home a lot worse. And so are those officers. Those officers are coming home every day a lot worse. And so what have we created in this criminal justice system? We've created more trauma and more violence in our society. And is that really as evolving humans that we are? Is that what we want to create? Or do we want to sit down and say, okay, we got to clean up this mess. You who've committed the crime, you got to figure out what to do to make it better. If it takes your whole lifetime, that's fine. But dehumanizing them and making them victims again and again is not the solution.
So you feel strongly about, obviously, they've got the death penalty in certain states still, haven't they, in America? In certain,
yeah, I think it's 18 states. I think I should know that.
So I guess you feel quite strongly about that. It's quite. What you're saying is, in this day and age, I would like to think we're more intelligent. We think a lot more about other people and emotionally, which is what you're saying we should be doing. Whereas the death penalty, really, is quite antiquated, isn't it? It's quite an old system where nothing's changed.
Death penalty is definitely like the ultimate eye for an eye, and it's murder for murder, right? It's all murder for murder. The thing about one of the studies that they did, one study in the death penalty, I think it was a sample of 15 people in the death penalty. They analyzed their brains. 100% of those brains had traumatic brain injury. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you are. They have damaged brains. It's not that they're bad people. They have damaged brains. And that's the distinction that we have to make as a society, because we're compassionate people, I think. I mean, and why do we want to throw away the key? Because we want compassion for the victims, right? That's the logic. Well, that's antiquated logic as well. We want compassion for the society. We want the compassion for the whole. We have to look at the whole picture, and we cannot just isolate the fact that I mean, there's some horrendous crimes that we're looking at, horrendous. But the example I gave with the mother and the baby, horrendous. But like I said, and Massachusetts doesn't have the death penalty, I don't think. And so that's why he didn't get it. But thank God, because he wrote to me, he says, I can never forgive myself, because that would mean somehow this is okay. And I'm saying I'm trying to coach him and saying it's a different thing. You forgive yourself. You still know you've done this. Yeah. But now at least you can move on and figure out ways to help, figure out ways to heal.
I'll tell you another thing as well, Fritzi, that's quite powerful is the power of forgiveness. I've had a few people on here that have done wrong, and people have forgiven them, and I know that's been very, very powerful. People have forgiven terrible, terrible things. I think that can sometimes be more powerful than anything, an eye for an eye or anything like that. The power of forgiveness, because that way you're the victim, or the people that have been affected are forgiving the person and letting that anger go, aren't they?
I forgot the quote, but it's by Nelson Mandela. It's like, holding on to that poison, poisons me. It's poisoning me.
Yeah.
And that's the opportunity, is our forgiveness. And that's, Jesus, when he came here, I'm not religious, but I know that Jesus symbolized, seeing everyone as human and seeing the majesty of every human and the majesty of forgiveness. It is grace, but it's grace for yourself. Yeah. And always, the old maxim that what you do unto others, you do unto yourself. So if you forgive yourself, because it also recognizes your own humanity, your own fallibility, and I would argue your own brain injuries.
Yeah. So what's in the future then, Fritzi, for this Compassion Project? Is this it now? Filmmaking's gone? Is this your total focus? Or are you going to make a film out of it? Are you going to make a documentary? Because I guess that would be quite powerful.
Well, we already did Step Inside the Circle. That's the one documentary we did. I have a couple of film ideas that I'd like to do, but I'm not going to talk about them yet because I have to make sure I can make that happen. But my goal is to end child abuse, is to spread the word that we're injuring our child's brains, just our behavior, getting a divorce, but having violence in the home, fighting with your spouse. But even having that tension, that angry tension in the house is still violence. So you really need to look at the violence that's in your world and how are you dealing with it? And why are you angry? What are the roots of your anger and righteousness? That's just as violent as any crime, being righteous. And remember, every single thought we have changes the world. It changes the world. If we're thinking good thoughts, if not good thoughts, but it's not like, oh, good luck. But if we're saying, you see that guy across the street and normally you'd be like, oh, look at him with his, butt crack showing or whatever. No, I bet, that's
judging. No judging.
Well, why are we judging? What is it that we need to make ourselves feel better than that human?
Yeah.
Because, whatever, we don't know what led him to be disheveled. We don't know. And it's bringing humanity back to our own selves. But it's to ourselves, because when we're judging them, there's something wrong with us. We're not looking at what the root is, and we got to get to the root.
So are you doing talks or going around America trying to spread the word on this? What's the plan?
Well, I'm going to prison spreading the word. But I will talk to anybody. I will talk to any podcast that wants me, because I want your listeners to know that they're living with injured brains. And I want them to stop hurting their children. Even if it's just saying, you're a piece of crap, or, what the heck are you doing, kid?
Yeah.
Treat
it can
that
have a
child.
Massive effect. It can have it's like I heard before, a child's brain's like a sponge, and it can have a massive effect on it and everything we do. And remember, parenting is not easy. You're not going to be perfect, but it's definitely something you need to work on and think of everything you're doing will have an impact on that child. You're right. Yeah.
Exactly. And forgive yourself, but also, when you lash out at your child, tell them, this isn't you. This is me and my trauma. This is me and my inability to work through whatever's going on with me right now. But I'm so sorry, my love. It's not you. I'm so sorry. And that'll change your child's brain. Like I'm healing my son's brain right now because my brain is healing. And get help. And if you're drinking and if you're addicted, get help, because you've lost your child. Then your child isn't yours anymore. Your alcohol is yours.
Yeah.
And get help. Be with your child, and revel in being a parent. It is the biggest gift you can give to the world, but we want that kid in good shape.
Yeah.
It's a gift, but not if he's great, if he's injured.
And I always ask my guests for a bit of advice. It can be the best bit of advice you've had or been or you could give out. What bit of advice could you give?
Forgive yourself, and there is no shame. There is no shame for what you did. It got you here. It got you to where you're at. Forgive yourself, and now that you know better, do better. It's easy. It's easy. I mean, it's hard as heck, but it's easy. It's easy to rise up to your own potential and your own magnificence, because every single person listening to this podcast is an incredible human being. I mean, just being alive, look at us with these fingers and hair. What the hell, right? What the hell? This is majesty. We are majesty, and we are bogged down in the minutia. And why? Let's rise up and be the beautiful people that we are.
And I could see one thing that's going to get you through that, and what will make a difference is your passion, because you're so passionate about it. It seeps out of your soul, and we need people like that to deal with all these important issues, and they're usually massive issues, which it's a massive thing to tackle. But without that passion, we'll be nowhere. So I think what you're doing is amazing. So I'm so glad we got to chat. I always ask my guests for a favourite. You said about that book earlier. You got any other favourite books or films or something like that you think people could watch or read that's quite inspirational?
Yes, The Wisdom of Trauma. Of course, I'm in it. So, but it asks for a donation. Go to thewisdomoftrauma.com, I think it is, or .org.
Yeah.
Go to the website and they ask for a donation, but it can be $2. It could be $1. Just, but watch it and just, learn more about trauma, learn about what it does. Take the ACE test, watch Step Inside the Circle. And, remember to laugh and to love yourself, because wow, this is our one time around in this body, in this iteration. Let's figure out how to make it the best we can.